The Titanic disaster of April 15, 1912, remains one of the most infamous maritime tragedies in history. Marketed as the unsinkable ship, the RMS Titanic set sail from Southampton to New York City with over 2,200 passengers and crew on board. The luxurious liner was a symbol of human progress and engineering might, but just 4 days into its maiden voyage, it struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. Within hours, the Titanic split and sank, leaving more than 1,500 people dead, many of them trapped below deck or succumbing to the freezing waters. The catastrophe was made worse by the lack of adequate lifeboats, a decision based on both cost-saving measures and misplaced confidence in the ship's design. Social divisions also played a role, as many third-class passengers were unable to reach lifeboats in time, while wealthier travelers had better chances of survival. This glaring inequality highlighted how class structures extended even into moments of crisis, fueling public outrage in the aftermath. The sinking of the Titanic had a lasting impact on maritime safety. It led to new regulations, such as requiring sufficient lifeboats for all passengers, 24-hour radio communication on ships, and the creation of the International Ice Patrol. The tragedy has since become a cultural touchstone, retold in countless books, documentaries, and films, serving as a haunting reminder of human hubris and the devastating cost of neglecting safety. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami stands as one of the deadliest natural disasters ever recorded. On December 26th, a massive undersea earthquake measuring 9.1 on the Richter scale struck off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. The quake unleashed a series of towering waves that radiated across the Indian Ocean, devastating coastlines in 14 countries. Entire communities were wiped out in minutes, with Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand bearing the brunt of the destruction. Nearly 230,000 people were killed, and millions more were displaced from their homes. What made this tragedy especially harrowing was the lack of an effective tsunami warning system in the Indian Ocean at the time. Many coastal residents had little to no chance to escape as the waves hit with extraordinary speed and force. Villages, resorts, and fishing towns were flattened, leaving behind scenes of unimaginable loss. Survivors faced not only the grief of losing loved ones, but also the challenge of rebuilding lives without homes, food, or clean water. In the aftermath, the world mobilized with unprecedented humanitarian aid. Billions of dollars were pledged, and rescue and relief efforts were launched on a global scale. The disaster also spurred the creation of a regional tsunami warning system to prevent such widespread devastation in the future. Yet, for those who lived through the event, the 2004 tsunami remains an enduring symbol of nature's overwhelming power and the fragility of human existence. The Holocaust was one of the darkest chapters in human history, orchestrated by Nazi Germany during World War II. Between 1941 and 1945, an estimated 6 million Jews, along with millions of other targeted groups, such as Romani people, disabled individuals, political dissidents, and Slavs, were systematically exterminated. Concentration camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Dachau became factories of death, where gas chambers, starvation, and forced labor claimed countless lives. The Holocaust was not only a campaign of mass murder, but also a carefully planned system of dehumanization. Jews were stripped of their rights, forced into ghettos, and marked with the Star of David before being deported to camps. Families were torn apart, cultural heritage was destroyed, and survivors were left with scars that extended far beyond the physical. The industrial scale and cold efficiency of the killings shocked the world when the camps were liberated. Its legacy continues to shape global conversations about genocide, human rights, and intolerance. Memorials, museums, and Holocaust education programs have been established worldwide to ensure the horrors are never forgotten. The Holocaust serves as a warning of what can happen when hatred, prejudice, and unchecked authoritarian power converge, making it one of the most significant tragedies in recorded history. The Hiroshima bombing of August 6, 1945, marked the dawn of the nuclear age and forever changed the course of warfare. During the final stages of World War II, the United States dropped an atomic bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The explosion leveled much of the city in seconds, killing an estimated 70,000 to 80,000 people instantly, with tens of thousands more dying from radiation exposure in the following weeks and months. The bombing was a turning point in global conflict, representing both a decisive move to end the war and an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. Japan was already weakened, yet the decision to use the bomb was made to force a rapid surrender and to demonstrate America's military dominance. For the civilians of Hiroshima, the consequences were beyond comprehension. Entire neighborhoods vanished, survivors suffered horrific burns, and generations were plagued by radiation-induced illnesses. Hiroshima has since become a symbol of both tragedy and resilience. While debates over the morality of the bombing continue, the city itself has transformed into a hub for peace advocacy, urging the world to abandon nuclear weapons. Annual memorials and the Hiroshima Peace Park stand as reminders of the devastation and the need for humanity to avoid repeating such destruction in the future. The Armenian genocide, carried out by the Ottoman Empire during World War I, was one of the first large-scale genocides of the 20th century. Between 1915 and 1916, an estimated 1 to 1.5 million Armenians were systematically massacred, deported, or left to die during forced marches into the Syrian desert. Entire communities were uprooted, and Armenian cultural, religious, and social institutions were deliberately destroyed. The genocide was marked by extreme brutality. Men were executed, women and children were subjected to violence and abuse, and those deported were often left without food, water, or shelter. Many perished from starvation or disease along the way. Survivors spread across the globe, forming a widespread Armenian diaspora that carried with it the painful memory of the tragedy. Despite overwhelming historical evidence, recognition of the genocide has long been contested, particularly by the Turkish government, which disputes the term genocide. However, more nations and international bodies have acknowledged it over time, affirming the scale and systematic nature of the atrocities. The Armenian genocide stands as a stark reminder of how unchecked nationalism and prejudice can spiral into mass violence and cultural erasure. The Bhopal gas tragedy remains one of the worst industrial disasters in history. On the night of December 2 to 3, 1984, a pesticide plant in Bhopal, India, owned by Union Carbide Corporation, leaked approximately 40 tons of methyl isocyanate gas into the atmosphere. The toxic cloud spread rapidly over the densely populated city, exposing hundreds of thousands of people to the deadly fumes. Panic ensued as residents fled their homes in confusion, many collapsing in the streets. The effects of the gas were immediate and devastating. Thousands of people died within hours from respiratory failure, while others suffered severe burns to their eyes and lungs. The official death toll stood at around 3,000 in the immediate aftermath, but long-term estimates suggest as many as 15,000 to 20,000 eventually died from related complications. Survivors endured chronic health problems, including blindness, lung disease, and birth defects in children born to exposed parents. Decades later, the tragedy continues to cast a shadow. The site remains contaminated, and many families still suffer from poverty, illness, and lack of compensation. The Bhopal disaster not only exposed the dangers of industrial negligence, but also highlighted the need for stronger safety regulations and corporate accountability in protecting human lives. The Challenger explosion was one of the most heartbreaking moments in space exploration. On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart just 73 seconds after liftoff, killing all 7 crew members aboard. Among them was Krista McAuliffe, a schoolteacher selected to be the first civilian in space, which had drawn worldwide attention to the mission. Millions of people, including many schoolchildren, were watching live when the tragedy occurred. The cause of the disaster was traced to a faulty O-ring in the shuttle's right solid rocket booster. Cold weather on the morning of the launch caused the rubber seals to lose flexibility, allowing hot gases to escape and trigger a catastrophic explosion. Despite engineers raising concerns about the safety of launching in freezing temperatures, NASA pushed forward due to schedule pressures, a decision that proved fatal. The disaster shocked the world and forced NASA to reevaluate its culture of decision-making. The Challenger accident led to a 32-month suspension of the shuttle program, sweeping organizational changes within NASA, and renewed emphasis on safety. While tragic, it also served as a reminder that space exploration, though inspiring, comes with profound risks. The Chernobyl disaster, which occurred on April 26, 1986, in the Soviet Union, is the worst nuclear power plant accident in history. During a late-night safety test at Reactor 4, operators made critical mistakes that caused an uncontrollable chain reaction. The resulting explosions blew the reactor apart, releasing massive amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The blast killed 2 workers instantly, and dozens more died soon after from acute radiation exposure. The fallout spread across Europe, contaminating large areas of Ukraine, Belarus, and beyond. In the days following the accident, thousands of residents were evacuated from the nearby city of Pripyat, leaving behind a haunting ghost town. Long-term effects included increased rates of cancer, birth defects, and other illnesses linked to radiation exposure. The scale of environmental damage was so immense that a 30-kilometer exclusion zone remains uninhabitable to this day. Chernobyl also exposed systemic failures in Soviet secrecy and governance. Authorities initially downplayed the disaster, delaying evacuations and failing to warn neighboring countries until radioactive clouds had already spread across borders. The tragedy became a turning point in nuclear policy worldwide, fueling debates over safety, transparency, and the dangers of nuclear energy. The Columbine High School shooting, which took place on April 20, 1999, in Littleton, Colorado, was a watershed moment in American history. 2 students, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, launched a planned attack on their school, killing 12 students and 1 teacher before taking their own lives. The event shocked the nation, as it was one of the deadliest school shootings at the time and was carried out with chilling premeditation. The attack raised difficult questions about gun control, mental health, bullying, and media influence. Investigations revealed that Harris and Klebold had been influenced by violent video games, movies, and their own deep personal frustrations. Their use of firearms, pipe bombs, and carefully planned tactics revealed how vulnerable schools could be to such acts of violence. Columbine left a profound cultural impact. It sparked nationwide debates over school security, the role of parents, and how American society deals with troubled youth. The tragedy also set the stage for a tragic series of school shootings that would follow in the decades to come, making it a grim symbol of modern violence in the United States. The September 11 attacks stand as one of the darkest days in modern history. On the morning of September 11, 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airplanes in the United States. 2 were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. 1 struck the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and the 4th, United Flight 93, crashed into a field in Pennsylvania after passengers fought back. Nearly 3,000 people lost their lives in just a few hours. The scale of the destruction was unprecedented. The Twin Towers collapsed, sending shockwaves of dust, debris, and terror through lower Manhattan. First responders risked and often lost their lives while attempting rescues in chaotic conditions. The attack left lasting scars, not only on the families of victims, but also on the collective psyche of the nation and the world. The aftermath of 9/11 reshaped global politics. It led to the US-led war on terror, the invasion of Afghanistan, and sweeping changes in security measures worldwide, including stricter airport screenings and intelligence gathering. The tragedy symbolized vulnerability in the modern world and served as a turning point in the 21st century. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill, also known as the BP oil spill, began on April 20, 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico. An explosion on the offshore drilling rig killed 11 workers and caused millions of barrels of crude oil to gush into the ocean over 87 days. It is considered the largest marine oil spill in history, devastating wildlife, fishing industries, and coastal communities across multiple U.S. states. The environmental impact was catastrophic. Vast stretches of coastline were coated in thick oil, killing countless marine animals, birds, and plants. Fisheries suffered long-term declines, and local communities faced both economic and health challenges due to contaminated water and seafood. the spill highlighted the fragility of marine ecosystems and the far-reaching consequences of industrial negligence. The disaster prompted global scrutiny of offshore drilling practices and corporate accountability. BP faced massive fines, lawsuits, and reputational damage, while the U.S. government implemented stricter regulations on oil exploration and spill response. Deepwater Horizon remains a stark example of how a single industrial failure can create an environmental and humanitarian catastrophe. The Fukushima nuclear disaster occurred on March 11, 2011, following a magnitude 9.0 earthquake and a devastating tsunami in Japan. The natural disasters triggered a catastrophic failure at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, causing 3 reactors to melt down and release radioactive material into the environment. Thousands of residents were evacuated, and the disaster created long-term radiation concerns. The immediate aftermath was chaotic, as workers struggled to stabilize the reactors amidst ongoing tremors and flooding. Radiation leaks contaminated surrounding land, water, and crops, forcing extended evacuations and leaving towns uninhabitable. Long-term effects include health risks such as thyroid cancer and psychological trauma for those displaced from their homes. The disaster also exposed weaknesses in emergency planning and nuclear safety protocols. Fukushima reshaped global energy policies and public perception of nuclear power. Many countries reassessed their nuclear programs, while Japan invested heavily in safety upgrades and disaster preparedness. The event remains a warning of the risks posed by natural disasters, interacting with high-risk technology, and the importance of global vigilance in nuclear safety. The Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, on December 14, 2012, was one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history. A gunman fatally shot 20 children and 6 staff members before taking his own life. The tragedy shocked the nation and intensified debates over gun control, mental health, and school security. The community was devastated, and the emotional aftermath rippled across the United States. Survivors, families, and first responders struggled with grief and trauma, while the nation mourned the loss of so many young lives. The shooting also sparked widespread media coverage, memorials, and advocacy efforts aimed at preventing similar tragedies. Sandy Hook became a catalyst for policy discussions around firearm regulation and school safety measures. While legislative changes were met with varying levels of success, the tragedy left a lasting impression on the American consciousness. It continues to symbolize the urgent need for protecting children and addressing violence in society. On April 15, 2013, during the Boston Marathon, 2 pressure cooker bombs exploded near the finish line, killing 3 people and injuring more than 260 others. The attack, carried out by brothers Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, brought terror to one of the United States' most iconic sporting events and tested the city's emergency preparedness. The explosions caused panic, chaos, and confusion as runners and spectators tried to escape the scene. First responders and medical personnel acted heroically, saving lives and tending to the injured. The attack also led to a citywide manhunt, culminating in the capture of one brother and the death of the other, leaving a community both scarred and determined to recover. Boston's response became a model of resilience and unity. Vigils, memorials, and charitable efforts honored victims and survivors, while the bombing spurred nationwide discussions on terrorism, public safety, and security at major events. The tragedy highlighted both the vulnerability and the enduring spirit of communities in the face of violence. The Las Vegas shooting, which occurred on October 1, 2017, during the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival, was the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. A gunman opened fire from a hotel room on the crowd below, killing 60 people and injuring over 400 others. The sheer scale of the attack shocked the nation and drew global attention to the issue of mass shootings. The attack unfolded in a matter of minutes, with the crowd initially unaware of the source of the gunfire. Panic and chaos ensued as festival-goers ran for cover, while emergency personnel struggled to reach and treat the wounded. The incident left lasting psychological trauma for survivors and witnesses, as well as deep sorrow for families who lost loved ones. The Las Vegas shooting reignited debates over gun control, event security, and public safety measures. Investigations into the shooter's motives and preparation revealed a meticulously planned act of violence. The tragedy remains a stark reminder of the dangers of mass shootings and the importance of both preventive measures and community resilience in times of crisis. From natural disasters to acts of human cruelty, these events remind us of life's fragility and the consequences of negligence. Yet they also showcase the resilience of communities and the enduring human spirit. If you want to explore more stories like these, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode.